Hi and welcome. We're gonna do sort of a a poetry review of Bob Dylan's latest release song, "Murder Most Foul." Shout out to my wife; she picked out these two shirts and bought them for me. So thank you, Zay. Or she's my fiance, soon to be wife. Okay, but we're gonna just go in and start. We'll read the first verse. The song is long. It's 17 minutes. The first verse is long, but after you hear the first verse, it's up to you if you want to listen to it, read the lyrics. But I'll read the first verse. It was a dark day in Dallas, November 63, a day that will live on in infamy. President Kennedy was a riding high, good day to be living, a good day to die. Being led to the slaughter like a sacrificial lamb, he said, "Wait a minute, boys. You know who I am?" "Of course we do. We know who you are." Then they blew off his head while he was still in the car. Shot down like a dog in broad daylight was a matter of timing, and the timing was right. You got unpaid debts. We've come to collect. We're gonna kill you with hatred, without any respect. We'll mock you and shock you, and we'll put it in your face. We've already got someone here to take your place. The day they blew out the brains of the king, thousands were watching, no one saw a thing. It happened so quickly, so quick by surprise, right there in front of everyone's eyes. Greatest magic trick ever under the sun, perfectly executed, skillfully done. Wolfman, oh wolfman, oh wolfman, howl. Rub-a-dub-dub, it's a murder most foul. And obviously, that's probably the greatest line in all literature. Rub-a-dub-dub, murder most foul, which is rub-a-dub-dub, 3 men in a tub. But so what's the first thing that stands out? Obviously, is that the sacrificial lamb and the illusion that he's painting President Kennedy's assassination, much like what happened to Jesus, and he calls it a murder. The murder and assassination are, I don't know how you separate that. It's not just, there's different ways that you kill. Obviously, you can, if somebody is attacking you and you kill them, that's self-defense. If you're in a war, two people, I don't like war at all, but when two sides are going against each other, it's survival. But murdering somebody, President Kennedy was just riding in a car. Jesus was just walking around. Jesus never hurt anybody. But so, to make the point, why is it so long? It's 148 lines, and maybe that doesn't mean anything. And when I say what it means, you'll still think that that's not what it means. But 148 in biblical numbers means the victory of the Passover lamb. And if you don't think, he literally says the sacrificial lamb. If you don't think Bob Dylan's smart enough to write 148 lines just so that the number 148 appears in his, or that the whole poem is 148 lines, so the emphasis is this other title where you could say the victory of the Passover lamb and the murder most foul. Same thing. Jesus was murdered. He died on the cross, but that's the victory of the Passover lamb. But he's resurrected. So let's go now to the second verse, and the verses are all different length, and I don't know. I haven't looked into why exactly. But so the second verse, it starts with the Beatles, and they're gonna hold your hand, and that's when the Beatles made it big in America. It was off the song "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and he's basically saying the Beatles got people back out of that shock of, in America at least, that the president had been killed, but here's the Beatles to make your heart feel okay. And I do believe the goodness of the four Beatles, and I believe in the goodness of the message in the 60s of all those songs where it doesn't matter, country or rock and roll or gospel. It was so connected back then that it was like one message in all the different genres. It was just about love and being together and getting through life, together through life, which is a Bob Dylan reference. Later, Bob Dylan. So anyway, it says these words, and you have to read the whole thing for yourself. But three bums, and they're gonna pour cement, and there's this black face singer and a white face clown, cash on the barrelhead, the invisible man, and the wise old owl. So what is any of that? Well, cash on the barrelhead, you could say somebody's being paid to kill, and like Judas, he was paid to turn over Jesus. He throws the money right back at the priests. Um, and who know, Oswald in Ruby. He mentions Oswald in Jack Ruby. There's cash on the barrelhead. So the idea is did Oswald act alone? And basically, that was the idea, and it's kind of like it's really bad because when you have Oswald and then Oswald's murdered and there's no trial, there's nothing. He's murdered by Jack Ruby on live TV. Um, much like Kennedy, you see the Zapruder film, but everybody has seen it, or I would assume that people are aware that you can literally watch it or whatever. But so what's this? The goodness of the Beatles in the beginning, and then the line of the wise old owl rhymes with the murder most foul. So the wise old owl, if you really, and once again, what I was saying about the Oswald thing is like, as soon as you say he didn't act alone, you have to, like, well, who helped him? And then you go through the Kennedy assassination has gone through so many conspiracy things where, I mean, I read about it and you just think, well, everybody did it. Like the mob did it, the Cubans did it, the Russians did it, our own government did it. Like everybody did it. Like it doesn't make any sense because I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm saying you can make the argument that that's what happened because there's nothing there but conjecture. Anyways, we'll move on to the third verse. And I don't know. This is where I start wondering. He's talking about like, so he's dead or he's dying, and they're trying to like get him to get him to the hospital, which obviously wasn't going to do anything. That once again, there's a conspiracy that he was dying, and they let him die just so Johnson, because when you have a president dying, it's sort of, I mean, it is a national security thing where it's like, well, who's in charge or what do you do? So Johnson's sworn in, and Jackie Kennedy was standing right next to him, in the clothes with brain matter splattered on her clothes. From the assassination. I mean, there's really no. I mean, that's a chilling picture of she's the witness of Johnson swearing in on the Bible, basically. And that's very strange. It's just strange the history of it. Like it obviously tells a story there. But anyway, he says things like the one word or the two phrases are, they killed him and then they're trying to kill his soul, and they've been searching for that. They're trying to kill the movement, and I don't really take that. The '60s movement was inspired by Kennedy's assassination, but very much he started the 1960s in his presidency with the New Frontier vision, the Camelot vision. That's why they call him the king, because he called his thing Camelot as King Arthur. And this is the third verse still. They're trying to kill him twice. They're trying to kill the man and his movement. And that's kind of, I don't know, you'd say that's the persecution of any religious group, is that they killed like Jesus. So they killed him and then they tried to kill his movement afterwards. And he says things like the Trinity River. Bob Dylan was a born again Christian. His name's Robert Zimmerman. Both his parents were Jewish. Comes from a Jewish background, but he became a born again Christian. But there's always biblical allusions in his writing. And he crossed over the Trinity River. He didn't see the new frontier, and he says something about. So he wouldn't say this. I should look it up, but the number 33, it says 33 times or maybe more, something like that. 33 is a Masonic number. And once again, it's like, oh my God, Matt's a conspiracy theorist. It's like, no, it is a Masonic number. There are Masons. And to say something about the Masons, if you write the number 33, it's an obvious allusion to that. He says this is the time of the Antichrist. And he says the murder most foul rhymes with throwing the towel for the last couplet in the third verse. Throwing the towel is a phrase meaning to quit, but it also, the towel you can see as the burial shroud of Jesus. And then the fourth verse is small. It's the smallest one. And it's 36 hours past Judgment Day. The Wolfman at the top of his lungs. St. James Infirmary. St. James, the Kingdom of St. James, stuff like a telepathic. And then he mentions Marilyn Monroe at the end. And this is where I was just like losing it. And then he starts, in the fifth verse, he just starts name dropping and stuff like that. And that's where I basically lose interest. I love Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan, there's Syd Barrett, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan, really for who I look up to. Obviously, I love John Lennon, and people could list other people that I love. But when it came to their writing and what I would look at, I love Bob Dylan's writing. It's like, it's the whole, he's speaking to me kind of thing. But he's very good at sharing his experience and understanding that other people have experiences. And this is his generation's, everybody knows where they were. If you were alive then, you knew where you were when that happened, when the Kennedy assassination happened. So, and he goes to the fifth. The first lady, he talks about the first lady, something about Gower Avenue, which I guess is a reference to not Brian Wilson, but his brother, who's in the Beach Boys. I read that online. Some of the stuff that I read, it's from other sources. I'm not going to say where it came from, but I don't make money, so I don't care. He says weird things like the Pink Horse and Mr. Mystery, which I didn't know who that was. Writing down all the names. He says he's telling you to play all these different people. And the one says what's his name? Play Buster Keaton. Play Harold Lloyd. They're comedians, and in this thing he says, in Sonny Boy Floyd, there's criminals, there's comedians, there's boxers. And then back to where I said the number 148 for the number of lines is important. He says play number 9 and play number 6 or something like that. I don't know if you don't think Bob Dylan knows this, but I don't know if you're Catholic, you see this in your church, and I hope this isn't reversed. Honestly, if this is reversed on the video, I feel really bad. But that's in the bottom. That's Jesus' name in Greek. That's Jesus' name in Latin, and you get the I for Jesus in Latin. There's no J. It's Iesus, and that's why you have in INRI on above the crucifix. The first word is Jesus, and you're like, well, Jesus doesn't start with an I. Yeah, it does in Latin. Jesus, Nazareth, Ra, Judah. And the Jews also is I because there's no J in Latin. So anyways, play number 9. I is Jesus, X is Christ. So, and that's been inside of codes and different things. Like you read, it's not like a mystery or Gnosticism or like you can't understand it. But if you have an I and an X together, or if you say number 9 and it's allusion to Jesus, that's not a conspiracy. That's literally just a fun code that they did, or it's a representation. The I and the X you can see as a type of cross. Anyways, it keeps going. Number 6, the man's number is 6, and obviously in the book of Revelations, the number of the beast, 6, dot, 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 you know it. But he said, like, he mentions 12 million souls waiting. The last verse is revelatory. It's about Revelation. There's stuff I didn't get, and it makes me mad towards the end of the song because it's going on, and he obviously is writing to fill up the quota of 148, and God bless him for writing a 17-minute song. I love his long songs, but I'm still wrapping my head around this one. He says 12 million souls, and I don't know what that. I can't remember what it says. I think it says, well, there's the 12 tribes, and I thought it said 12,000 from each tribe, but maybe that's not what it said. Maybe it does say 1,000, but whatever it's saying, it doesn't mean that's just the highest number, or what, like M in Roman numerals, you're not going to get a higher number than 1,000 because it's just you just write MM 2000, MMM 3000, and if you want to write larger numbers, you use the X. It's like 10. I don't know if that's really true. Is X? I guess it wouldn't be. How would you write like 10,000 in Roman numerals? But anyway, this isn't a Roman numeral discussion except for the IX, obviously number 9 in Roman numerals, I for Jesus, X for Christ. He says something about your brothers are coming, the altar of the rising, sacrifice on the altar of the rising sun. He talks about Houdini, and then finally death comes, and it's once again he makes the point, it's a murder most foul, and that's how it ends. So with the whole song, it's not about if I like it or don't. There's obviously significance to it. What I see a lot of people say, they love it, which is they say it's like thank God he came out with this, and why did he? Other than it's Passover time, he has many songs. I can't remember what's that. Can't remember what it's called, but when you're lost in the rain and Juarez, and it's Easter time too, your gravity fails because negativity don't pull you through. Don't put on any airs when you're down on Gower Avenue. They got some hungry women there, and they'd really make a mess out of you. And that's a great Passover song. Desolation Row also can be seen as a Passover song because it's what I've heard is it's about a lynching down in the South, and that he's making the illusion that it's about Jesus. In a way, he doesn't. That one's a little bit different because you never know who Jesus is. He name drops all these different people from Einstein, Casanova, Robin Hood, and like they're all like, a lot of them are really good figures. But which one is the Christ? I don't know if he's really in Desolation Row, but obviously he's not calling John F. Kennedy Jesus. He's calling the assassination a murder most foul because it's the conspiracy was to kill Jesus. It's not a conspiracy that Jesus was. So it's weird when you say that. There was a conspiracy to kill Jesus. Now, what was there a conspiracy to kill John F. Kennedy? And I think Bob is saying yes. And the word conspiracy, as soon as you say, I believe in conspiracy or I believe in some conspiracy, well, then everything, usually what people say to you is, well, throw out his ideas or throw out her ideas because it's obviously a Looney Tune. But Bob Dylan's never been afraid to challenge people and to not worry about what they think or how they label him. Literally, I mean, he won the Nobel Prize. It's hard to say who's the, you know, I would say he's the, I mean, I love John Lennon and Paul Simon, their poetry, but for importance or like, he is the poet of the 20th century. I don't know how you get away from that. But anyway, he challenges people, and that's a good thing. Like, if you want to dig into his personal life, he's not a perfect person. You want to dig into John F. Kennedy's life, not a perfect person. Not even somebody to really personally aspire to be to. I really do like what he was doing as president, and then obviously the civil rights stuff was passed after he was assassinated. And finally, I'll end because it's over 21 minutes. It's longer than the song, so you could just listen to the song and save yourself some time and have your own analysis of it. But in the 60s, there was Jim Morrison of the Doors wrote a song that's it's the most insane song you could ever listen to. But it says one line of it is, dead president's corpse in the driver's car. The engine runs on glue and tar. Come on along, not going very far. To the east to meet the czar. And so the dead president's corpse in the driver's car would be Kennedy. And whatever the rest of it means, obviously the Kennedy assassination was huge for that generation, impacted that generation, still does. And to get to the truth of what happened, you can't do it because you're labeled a conspiracy theorist. And like I said before, I studied it, and you can make the conjectured point that it was this person, it was that person. Oswald acted alone. Oswald didn't act alone. You know, he's not there to be asked. Jack Ruby, he's not talking anymore either. He's dead. But anyways, what I'd like to say in final, that Bob Dylan wrote a song for Easter to get us into the Easter spirit, the Passover spirit. The Pasch is going to be next week. A week from today is Good Friday. And thank you, Bob Dylan, for writing this song. Once again, I don't like the end of it. I don't like the last half of it or whatever. Just personally, because I don't understand it. And even if I understood it, I don't know if I'd like it because it's I like reading it more than I like listening to it, and that's probably part. It's a really good poem, and it's not for me. I lose interest, but Bob Dylan is a hero of mine. Thanks for writing the song. Thanks for listening. God bless you, everybody. And remember, Jesus and Mary love you.